What's up, guys? I'm back. I wanted to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp. I believe that was the last movie that just came out, but it had a few good points that I could pull from. And the biggest thing I wanted to talk about first was just the lady being the ghost lady. She pretty much could tap in and out of matter and go in and out of. I don't even know how to say it because she's not necessarily going to other dimensions. She didn't have that power. I mean, her powers came from another dimension, though, in the sense of how her parents end up dying and shit like that. But for the most part, she could just phase in and out of matter. And she was losing control of it because she was becoming off balance for, you could say, for many reasons. Some people probably could say because the people was using her for a weapon like they do to us now, or many other different things, bro. Just being lied to or whatever, losing her parents. This is a lot of trauma. And with her, you get this because she even talk about the hurt. She talk about the pain like it's unbearable or something that she can't get rid of. And at the end of the movie, I'm jumping around already, but at the end of the movie, all she pretty much did was balance her. She brought her center, and the pain went away. Like, and that's how simple it is. It's like once we find balance, once we find our God self, bro, like it's no real fear. It's nothing that's gonna stop us because we know like we're above that shit. But just to get back into it more, like I connected with the lady that was phasing inside outside of her body is because I don't know about y'all, but for me, I go through these my body trembles a lot in the sense like from my leg all the way up to my back to my fucking anywhere in my body, it just tremble randomly. It could be the bottom of my foot, like literally randomly, and it just I have many trembles. And I know they're from spiritual ascension, or that's what they call it, spiritual ascension, what's that shit, symptoms or something like that. And once you kind of look, that's a good thing to look up, because a lot of times we get sick, or a lot of times stuff happens to us, and we go to a medical reasoning for it instead of a spiritual reasoning. And you can almost look up any spiritual properties or meanings off of just Google. Like if you was just to look up what's the spiritual property of cinnamon, like you might think it got medical properties, which it does, but it also has spiritual properties, and it might bring. I think cinnamon has like luck, maybe charm or something like that, but it brings warmness out. It's some around there, but I'm over here off topic. But I'm trying to think of what else that I could relate with her. I know when I talked about this before, like I had like almost like an out of body experiences and shit like that, and I feel like that could be something like that. Like I almost feel like I wasn't in control. And bro, they did her the girl character so live because like she'll literally be moving, and she'll be moving in phases. So like we're thinking like, and you could say this to, cause I remember watching the movie when we was in like as kids. It was like we feel like we walk in one way, but how we don't know we can walk three separate ways in our mind. And the fact that we did that in our mind, how don't know we did it in real life. And that same aspect, like we could be taking 10 different steps and only pay attention to the one direct path that we take type shit. And we could be moving that fast, but that's a little off topic too, but in that same aspect, like I felt that, like I felt like you could just see it, bro. Just how it's multiple versions of herself all trying to move one way, and she didn't have control over it. So now, like it's just, I don't know. They really didn't explain it well. They stuck to her character. Like another thing, let's just switch topics. Like they had really no villains in the movie. Like the ghost character was just trying to save herself. What's his name? Hank and Hope was trying to save their wife and her mother. The Ant-Man was trying to help him reinvent his name, make sure his daughter happy, not go to, like he literally was just trying to please everybody. The government, which was trying to keep Ant-Man in house arrest, like they literally was like people died in Sokovia, so they just going by their book or whatever, and, following the law or whatever. So you can even say from their aspect of they were just doing right because people's lives has been taken from y'all doing certain things without boundaries or foundations and shit like that. So even from the government, they was operating the right way. The only fuck ass that was literally the villain in a sense and really had no I guess you could say personal interest is the white dude that was I guess trying to make money just because he found out who Hank and Hope was. And that's just capitalism. He found out they had these good inventions, so he tried to take it from him. That's literally probably the only bad guy. And you can say that spiritually, like, I mean, the government only gives power through us, so, I mean, they're not technically bad. They're just, they have too much. We gave them too much control, so we fucked up. In the same sense, like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it makes sense, bro. Spiritually, of course, but if you're trying to really figure and break shit down, like, you know, to look at it yourself is causing these problems versus the government. So yeah, I mean, if you look at that movie, it's no real enemies. It's no real, even the dude for capitalism, like he barely had an effect in it. So it's like all these different perspectives, and I feel like they did that on purpose, is just to go to show you, like, it's no real evil. It's no real like bad guy, good guy, enemy. Like what do you call it? I forgot what they call it, but when they have the arc something, arch enemies or some shit like that, whatever. But they ain't have that. Now I think a lot of superhero movies been kind of shining away from that, because even I said Killmonger, he's not really a villain. Like, if you think about where he comes from, you think about his aspects, he was completely right. He just had a little too much rage. And that same aspect, like, that's perspective. Like, bro, you can't say, oh, well, you need to chill like this because this is what happened to you. But, you know, slavery affected you this way, so maybe you should act like this. It's like, no, whatever he manifests, whatever he becomes, that's what he becomes, because that's what was created. So in that same aspect, like, Apocalypse, like, a lot of these movies, they're not really having villains anymore, and it's because it's like due to the perspective thing. Like, but it makes sense when it comes to, like, people don't want to look at it as being oppressors and shit like that, so they want to make it seem like, hey, it's your fault, or, you know, things like that. But that's almost kind of a stretch, but it's definitely there. But think of another thing that happened. Them trying to save his wife, the Wasp. No, the Wasp was the daughter, but they was trying to save the wife, and pretty much she was lost in these interdimensional, I don't even know what to call it. She was just in some, what do you call it? What they call this shit? I don't know. But pretty much she was trapped inside of a bunch of parallel realms, and he had to find her way and tap into it. And the biggest thing that I got from that is the husband and the wife were separated, just like with our brain, our masculine, our feminine, it was separated. And when he went to go find her, he had to go through this whole little journey about to die and all this other shit. But it was a quick, like, these things happen quickly, but imagine being there, how much emotion, how much energy it'll take to, you know, be trying to find your wife. Think about how much doubt and how much lack of faith you have for her to be standing right in front of you all of a sudden. Like, you gotta think how much energy that takes to go through that whole process. But they showed it fast on the movie, but these things definitely took a lot out of these people to get to that point and find his wife. So in that same thing, I'm saying, like, he drunk from his own cup and trying to get through his mission and purpose, and he ended up almost dying, in the sense of, like, he once he got there, he lost the location, and he started yelling out, like, he felt like he was dying. But in that same aspect, like, that was a good thing too. It's like a transformation. Like, literally, when you felt like you were dying, but you was going into a dream that could help you tap into finding your wife. So at the end of the day, like, that's a lot of the times we be doing. Like, we be fighting and scared of shit, but you have to see the movie for the most part to know what I'm talking about, because he literally was screaming and yelling, and it's like, damn, he really feel like he about to die. As soon as he taps over to the other side, he has what he wants. It's right in his hands. It's like, so why were you just screaming and shit? But it's because he didn't know where he was going and all these other different things. But it's just like I said, it goes to show how much fear he thought he had. Like, he thought he either wasn't gonna get back to his daughter. He thought he was gonna lose both of them. You know, in that same aspect, a lot of things going through his mind, but they don't necessarily show all that pain, all that anguish, and all those, you know, different doubts and fears. But trying to think. Yeah, and once they came together, bro, all she had to do was touch him on his forehead and balance him, because his body was starting to do the same thing the ghost lady was doing. And was since he was in multiple realities, like, the reality was pulling him out of his self type shit and pulling him into other dimensions. So all she did was tap him on his two temples, bro, and balance that nigga, bro. And that's as simple as I just said. She touched him on the temples and balanced that nigga. Like, bro, she brought balance to these people, to him and the girl, and now she got these powers that she found. And she was like, well, I'm not the same person that I've been, because, you know, she been in this different world gathering different experiences. And she low key, if you look at that, like, bro, he was in a lower place in the sense of he was in earth, and she was in a higher realm, or in the micro, which would be inner. And, bro, she was in another world, so she had a bunch of different tools and aspects she can learn from versus him being on Earth. So when they came back together, she had almost been through godly practices, and she could do shit that we consider godly, but she just was, different experiences, and she learned how to tap into different shit. And it's got to show, like, bro, these movies be knowing, bro. And she was in the inner because they had to go macro. That's the biggest thing with them. Like, this is more within as without. Like, because they go into these small worlds and you see these big-ass little bugs and shit like that. And it's like, damn, they look like bacteria. But if you really think how micro they are, that shouldn't be no bacteria. Like, they should be smaller than that shit. But it just go to show you life keep on repeating no matter what form of it. And yeah, I mean, like I said, it wasn't too many hidden messages, but besides the masculine and the feminine reconnecting, her becoming pretty much a god in her other reality. I didn't even really want to talk about the death thing, but that was a good point with him trying to almost fight death. Trying to think anything else, man. No, it wasn't no bad guys really. Yeah, man, I can't really think of anything else besides the things I just named. But overall, I mean, it had a couple good messages in there. And it, like I said, once you kind of learn the overall picture, even Jesus talked about it, once you learn one parable, you kind of know a lot of them or know all of them in that same aspect. Once you get down the big picture that they're trying to get out, like, you kind of see what they're saying overall throughout all the other movies. But, yeah, I mean, I ain't gonna sit up here and say it was a great movie with a bunch of spiritual, just deep dives, but it has some things that you can pull from and find. But I'm out, guys. Deuces.